I introduced this 90s Vostok Amphibia a few videos ago, and some of you quite rightly suggested it was not an amphibia but rather a Komandirskie, and this is true. It has a Komandirskie dial with a submarine motif, but it's cased within an Amphibia 200-meter case. You may be forgiven for thinking it's a Frankenwatch, and this was my first thought. I trawled through Google to see if I could get some answers, and well, there wasn't much to go on, except there are others just like this one out there. Somebody commented that these are legit and were put together along with millions of watches produced by the company during the breakup of the Soviet Union era. Another commenter suggested that the dodgy dial spots were actually original from the factory, and this was not uncommon. I confess I'm not an expert on the history of these Vostoks, but I do find them interesting. A mass-produced line of watches which have been around for many decades, and the company is still going strong today. These are not particularly good quality watches, they are extremely cheap to buy, and you could argue are not worth the time to deal with, and you might be right. But not today. We're going to see if we can do something about restoring this nice piece of history, even if it's not worth much. It interests me, and maybe others, and that's what matters. What I'm not going to do though is make it look brand new. I want to still keep its vintage look, and so I'll not be touching the dial at all. But I will give the case a bit of a polish up and maybe replace the bezel, as all the chrome plating has rubbed off around the edge. The glass needs a tension ring, and I'll replace the crown and the case back gasket. But I did notice during my inspection of this movement that the pallet stones were secured with way too much shellac, and this may well affect timekeeping, so I will remedy that. But for now, let's get the movement stripped down and cleaned. And as you can see, there seems to be a lot of oil trapped between the dial and the movement. And here we can see the pallets are secured with way too much shellac. Now before we go any further, I'd like to just see the current state of timekeeping on the time grapher. And unsurprisingly, it's all over the place. And now, with the movement completely stripped down, I can clean all the parts. Now, before I address the repairs, I will put the movement back together and I'll lubricate it. And whilst the time grapher reading is showing a little bit of an improvement, it still could be much better. In my previous video, linked in the description below, I explained that the shellac applied to secure the entry and exit pallet stones was way too excessive, and I committed to removing the old and reapplying the new shellac. Now I could not proceed with this task, however, because my pallet warmer tool was missing, so I made a new one. Now, I will demonstrate how the pallet warmer is used in order to apply new shellac to the pallets. But first I have to remove the old shellac and reset the pallet stones back into position. Now this is the shellac I shall be using. It is quite commonly used by woodworkers or furniture restorers, and it's quite easy to obtain. I shall set the stones back into the pallet fork in what I feel is the best position. The position can be finally adjusted later, but for now I'll position them as close to as I feel is correct. Now I heat up the pallet warmer using a spirit lamp filled with alcohol. And with the plate of the pallet warmer hot enough to melt the shellac, I can smear some on the plate, and before it cools and becomes hard again, I can create a couple of small balls like so. I place the pallet fork on the plate upside down so that the pivot is in the drilled hole and the guard pin is facing up, and the plate is still hot and it starts to warm up the pallet fork, which is required for the next step. I then place one of those balls of shellac at the rear of one of the pallet stones, and I apply just a little bit of booster heat by hovering the pallet warmer back over the flame of my spirit lamp, being careful not to allow the hole to be directly over the flame. Inspecting the shellac, we can see that it started to melt into position, but it does need to melt further, so we shall apply just a little bit more heat. And now it has melted nicely, I can continue and apply shellac to the other pallet. Now the shellac solidifies as soon as it cools down, which will be within a few seconds of the pallet fork being removed from the pallet warmer, and the stones will be locked into position. I can clean the area on the pallet warmer where the pallet fork sits, ready for if I need to adjust the position of the stones. And if I did need to adjust the position, I can simply heat up the plate again, place the pallet fork on the plate, and the heat will make the shellac soft enough to allow the movement of the stones. Now when the pallet fork is removed, the shellac will harden again, and of course the stones will be secured once more. This is why we use shellac rather than an adhesive such as epoxy. And with the stones reset, I can assemble and test again. And after a little bit of tweaking, I was able to achieve acceptable results on the time grapher. And with that done, I can continue assembling the watch. Now, some of you watched my last video. You may remember that I actually made 2 of these pallet warmers. I have now fitted a wooden handle so that it can be used without burning my fingers. I made the second one as a giveaway to one lucky winner. All you have to do is be a subscriber, like, share, and comment below that you would like to win. Now make sure you use the words pallet warmer within the comment. If you're one of my patrons, then you can be entered twice in the draw. See your Patreon feed for details. But I do have plans available for free if you'd like to build your own pallet warmer in the file section of our Facebook group. There's a link in the description below. I will announce the winner of the draw in my next video, which I've started to work on, where I will restore a vintage Seiko Bellmatic. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you're not already subscribed, then why not do that now? It's free, and if you hit the bell icon, then you'll be notified whenever I upload new content. And thank you to all my patrons who help to keep this channel alive. See you in the next one. Bye bye.